Hello everyone, welcome to another Rick's Picks. Today I'm going to be doing my review of Morna from the Guardians of the Horde collection by Mithril Action. Now, I don't know much about this line of figures. She's the first one I ever picked up from it. I was going through Big Bad Toy Store one day and I saw the figure and I thought she looked really cool and would be worth adding to the rest of my fantasy and sword and sorcerer figures. So we're going to see this one for the first time together. So first off, if you already subscribed, thank you very much. You're very well appreciated. And if you watch this video and you do like it and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and also check out my Conan and other fantasy figures playlist. So, with all that being said, without any further ado, let's get to the review. So here she is in packaging. I do like the packaging for her. So first off, you get this really nice picture of the figure. I do like that. You do get a window here. It's not much, just enough to see the upper part of the figure, but there is one there. There's an age restriction of 17 plus. This is her number. This is her name here. Guardians of the Horde. All right. Mithril Action figures. What scale she is. Spin her around here. You got the directions on how to change around her body parts and what have you. Spinning around here. All right, you get a nice picture of her and her armor. A couple different poses of hers. A few QR codes. Guardians of the Horde. Her name down the side. All right, spinning around here. You get another picture of the figure. And the Mithril Action logo, which I actually think that looks pretty cool. I do like that logo. On the top, you get pretty much more the same. You get a better look at that logo that looks really twisted. Matter of fact, that'd even make a cool looking tattoo, to be honest with you. Her name, her number, and then underneath you get a little bit of legal. So, with all that being said, let's open her up and see what she's about. So here she is, out of packaging. She's a really impressive looking figure. I like the overall look to her. So first off, we're going to give her the rotation. So you have the front here. You have this side. You have the back here. And then you have this side and back around. Now she don't stand too well, so you're definitely going to need a stand similar to this, which connects to her hips because she doesn't have holes in her feet for that style of stand. So overall, she looks pretty good. So first off, let's look at the head sculpt. I like this head sculpt. Got it a little this side, a little bit that way. It's a really nice looking head sculpt. I like how the helmet looks with this old green dial in it. And then you get to the arm armor here. So if I tilt her forward a little bit, you can see like these skulls in here. And it has like a brass looking outline and highlight to it. Same with these forearms here too. I really like the design to that. Bring her around here. This whole front piece looks really cool. The blue and gray really puts a really nice access on that. So I really like all that detail and stuff. Especially with these horns. They look really cool as well. And even the design to her boots. So if you look at this side, you kind of have like this almost like a darker, maybe like a gunmetal look to it. With the same highlights. Bring her up just a little bit. So you can also see the skulls in here as well. So there's a lot of really good detail going on with this figure. So now let's start looking at her points of articulation. So first off, the head does move. All right. The shoulder pieces move. All right. So that way you can get her arm into different positions. So I do like that. She has a shoulder joint with a swivel in there. Not much movement in it, but it is there. All right. You have an elbow joint. All right. You have a swivel right here. And you do have a wrist joint. All right. Let's see if this other arm is, yeah, a little bit more cooperative. Yeah, so you get a little bit of a spin there. It's a little bit tight, but it does work. Now you do have a joint underneath the breast. All right. And you should have a thigh joint I'm sorry, a hip joint as well. Okay. Clamp her back in. Spin her around this way. You have a thigh joint with a swivel in there. You do have a knee joint. All right. And you also have an ankle joint, as well as a toe joint. So she has some pretty good points of articulation. Most of it moves pretty well, even though the shoulders are a little bit stiff. You still get some movement in there. You may want to use just a little bit of heat to get them going, but for the most part, I feel like all her joints work. All right, so now let's look at all her different accessories. So first off, she has two different head sculpts. So she has a screaming one here. All right. She has what looks to be like a normal face. I like the way how her eyes look. They really shine and reflective. Right. Little ponytail wrapped up in the back here. Okay. She has a whole slew of different hands. Now, I love when toy companies give you these little racks. Makes it a lot easier to store the hands and also display them. I also, once again, love the color tones to the armor hands. I think those look really nice. All right. She has a pair of feet. So she has this foot here. And it also does have a toe joint. And this foot here. All right. She has two of these shoulder pieces. Because with the armor, there's little pegs that go up into the armor that holds the armor on. So these are without them. Because you can also have her without the armor. All right. And then this is the other one. All right. Next up, she does have, I guess, an undergarment here. So this is like the shirt part. And then this is the lower part of it. And last but not least, you have her sword. This is a really cool looking sword. I love the look to it. All right. I like how it has all this detailing in here, and there's a wash on it too. Same with the eyes for the hilt here. So everything looks really neat. I like the look. It feels a little bit on the brittle side, so that's a little bit of a concern to me, but other than that, it's a really neat piece. So now let's start going through some of this stuff. So first off, we're going to swap out the hands for the armor. So let's see how easily some of this swaps out. So let's take this hand. All right, that popped off pretty easily. No issues. Let's put a holding hand in there. Oops. Get her back on the stand. All right. Pop that in there. All right. So that went on pretty well. Whoops. No issues. Except for getting her to stay on the stand. That seems to be an issue. So that hand went on very well. I have no issues with that. Let's get the other holding hand here. All right, so let's pull this hand off. All right. Stay on there. All right. That fits on there pretty well. No issues with that one. Let's see if we could try to get her to stand without it. Now, with this sword, the pommel comes off, okay? So when you want to put her hands through the sword, whoops, I throw her all over the place. All right, that's a tight fit. But it does go on there. So you could obviously get her with the one-handed hold. That's not an issue. Now this looks long enough. All right, these hands are a little bit tight, but it does work in there. Let's get this pommel back. And boop. So there you go. So now she could do a two-handed hold with this sword without any issues. I don't have any problems with that. All right. So now that we got the sword in place, let's see how some of these other hands work. I'm going to just take this off with the sword. We're going to just try one of each different type of hand. So we're going to do a pointing hand here. All right. And I'm just doing this for time. So, you know, we're not sitting here for like 20 minutes while I go through like 100 hands. All right. Oops. So the hands swap out very easily. I don't have any issues. So if you want her to point at something, she can. No issues. Same with this hand with no issues. All right, so now let's go through the heads. Let's see how well these heads pop off. All right. Well, the whole barbell came out with this one. Ugh. All right. So what happened was I wanted to pull the whole neck piece out instead of just a part of it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get our good friend Mr. Hot Water just to do this right, because it looks like this peg is really in there. Have her head sitting in the hot water. Now, this is a common issue sometimes with some of these figures. So what it is they use like a barbell in there. So you got a ball on one side and a ball on the other side that allows the head to move. So sometimes when you pop that head off, you pop the opposite side of the barbell off. So this has been sitting in here for a minute. Nice and soft. So see how easily that came out? Now the bigger part goes back in her neck. This part is for her head. All right, so let's get that back in there like it should. There we go. Let's get Screaming Head. The hot water really softened everything up. See how well that just pops right back on with no issues. So, and it didn't take much. It just took a little bit of the hot water just to soften it up enough to where the heads pop. So, once again, that barbell comes out pretty easily, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do is this last head, I'm going to just pop it in there like this. And pop that back in there. Just like that, okay? So now that head is on there nice and snug. So now we're going to start swapping out her armor. Okay, so these cufflings do come off pretty easily. I'm going to just get just a set of the bare hands for right now. All right. Now, the neat thing about this too, in my opinion, is that you can now, the way how this armor comes off, you could have her armor in variant stages. So let's say you're one of those people who maybe want like a bare arm. Like this is going to swap out in a minute. So you want her to have armor on one side and bare on the other side. You could do that with this figure. So you can arrange her armor however you want it. You could have her with the shoulder pieces, maybe not have the arm guards on, or however you want to do her, you can. So I find that a pretty neat thing about her is that you could just swap, take off what you want, put on what you want, and what have you. So now this shoulder should just pop out. All right. And this is what I was talking about earlier, how you have this little bulb here for the armor. All right. Then this little piece pops back in here. Shoulder goes back on. No issues with that. Okay. I'll pop the head off so we can swap a couple things out. Now, let's get another really good look at this shoulder piece, because I really do like the design of the shoulder. I think that's like really, really cool looking. All right. Let's take this arm apart. All right. Wiggle that off. Put the other hand on. Just like that. no issues. Pop that off, pop the shoulder off. All right. Get this into place. It looks like it dropped a little bit out of place. There it goes. All right, where's this arm? There you go. All right, so the arm swapped out pretty well. I'm probably going to have to take them off again because I think to get this bodice piece off, I might have to pull the arms off. Actually, I think her torso comes apart. Yeah, okay. The torso comes apart. This should just drop off of her like that with no issues. So now we could get this shirt on her, which once again, I think I probably should have left the arms off to do this. So I'm learning as I'm going. All right, so let's pull just one arm off. You know, I don't think you might, you might have to. All right, so this whole body just comes right apart pretty easily. Hold on one second. All right. So it all comes apart pretty easily. Let's get this shirt on her. All right. Now you could probably even have her wear like the shirt under her armor as well. So if you want her covered, you could probably do that. Put this on here the way it should be. This thing's fighting me. It's just like this little flimsy piece of cloth. You know? Go, there's that side. Okay. And this side. That. That too. This on down. Right. Now that that's sort of on. All right, there we go. Now, this is the whole setup inside for the shoulders, the torso, and everything. So that just popped right on out of there and just pops right back in. No issues. So I'm going to pop, I guess, the normal looking head on to go with this particular outfit. All right. Get this coupling back in here. Get the proper arm on for that. All right. So that worked pretty well. Now let's get this other arm on here. A little coupling in here. All right. So that's the upper body setup. I think I did it backwards. Ah, bother. All right. So I actually put this on backwards. But that's an easy fix. You can just spin it around. Actually, that fits on her a lot better. All right, so this is this. Oops, need a coupling. All right, so that is in there. I heard it pop, so that means it's in. And then this piece here, go on here. All right, so that's the upper body there. That is completely together now. Let's work on the lower body. All right, so all this should just pull. All right, so this torso comes apart. All that stuff comes off of it. Okay. We'll put the upper torso back together. Sort of, eventually. That's off by a hair. Okay, this is kind of becoming a pain in the ass. Ah, okay. So now her upper body is completely together. feet come off. The boots just slide off. Okay, and then this goes on her as well. This is kind of a pain too. Right. Get that up on her. It's kind of annoying. All right, there we go. Right. Attach the upper torso and the feet. You know what? Feet are going to sit in the hot water for a minute. So, as you can see, other than the feet, she's pretty much all together. While I'm waiting for those to heat up, we're going to play around with some of these hands. All right. Put this one on instead. Right. And her sword holding hand. All right, so the hands swap out pretty easily, no issues. All right, let's check up on these feet. All right, so let's try this foot first. So what's happening is with the feet, they kind of go on a slight angle. There we go. So you definitely want that plastic nice and soft for that. So they just slide right on in. And I'm starting to have the problem that I always have with some of these things that are just the peg going into, in this case, it's the foot. Most of the time, it's the hands that give me problems. This foot is really giving me some trouble here. Problem is my hot water is starting to cool. All right, let me try that. Let that sit a couple more minutes in the water. But this foot went on pretty well. No issues with that. Let's try this one last time. There it goes. All right. So now, well, that one's kind of on. Hang nabbit. All right. So I had to reheat the water. And once I reheated the water and did the whole thing with that foot, the foot fits on there fine now. So what we're going to do is we're going to get her sword here. And we're going to see how well the sword fits in this hand as well. It shouldn't be an issue. But it is a sword holding hand. So we definitely want to make sure that it works. All right. There we go. And get the pummel on there. Boom. All right. So the sword does work with this hand. No issues with that. And this is her without her complete armor on. So if this is how you want to display your figure, you could do that as well. I personally kind of like the whole armor look on her. And it's neat because now that we got the armor off, it's neat how the boots just slide on and off. Most figures, when they do something to where you swap legs and stuff, usually take the whole leg off. But with this, you actually just pull the armor off, which is a neat thing. I kind of like that. And you can see this skull a little bit better here too. So overall, everything swapped out pretty easily. The only things that I needed to really use heat on was the heads and the feet. And one last thing about this figure. So this head here, the hair can come off and the face could swap out. All right. For what purpose, I don't know, because the other heads you can't do that with. This is the only head that you can actually swap out the hair and the face. So I'm not sure if there's like, add-on faces or heads or whatever for her. that you could swap around with, you know, but that head, this head here, the face and hair can be swapped out. All right, so my final thoughts on this figure is I like her. I think she's a really cool looking figure. If you're somebody who likes like sword and sorcery, fantasy genre, and what have you, and you like elves and stuff, I really think she's a really cool figure and would definitely go great with any of your sword and sorcery figures. All her joints move very well. I had no issues with that. All her body parts swapped out pretty easily. The head and feet, I did need to use hot water, but that wasn't a real major issue. One of the things I do like about this figure is that all the armor is removable, so you can swap things out however you want it. Like I said earlier, if you want like maybe a bear arm, or you know, you may not want the boots on her, or swap things out however you want, you can. So that's pretty cool. And then she has that undergarment outfit as well, for those of you who want to display her like that. The only confusing thing I think of, to me with this figure, and this is just because I'm not very familiar with the line, is that the one head does have the faces that swap out, but it doesn't work with any of the other heads. Like I said, maybe that's an add-on for the figure, or maybe you could swap them out with other figures like her. I'm not 100% sure. If you are somebody who does know what that's about, just leave a comment, because I'd actually like to know. So that's the only real issue I had with this figure. Other than that, she's great. Things swap out really well. The sword seems a little brittle, but, you know, it still works. So overall, I would recommend this figure to go with the rest of your collectibles. So with that being said, I hope you guys did like this review. If you did, go ahead and check out my Conan and other fantasy figures playlist, and hit that like, share, and subscribe. They're all small clicks for you, but it really helps this channel grow. So until the next one, late.